Hi, I'm Chef Mark with Escafe Online, and today we're presenting our wine pairing session with our front of the house specialist, Michael. Michael, nice to have you here today.
Nice to be here, Mark. Thank you.
It was great to chat with you last time about the other session we did, but today is so important, the discussion of wine pairing, and for the guest and the server to communicate with each other. Many times the guest may misinterpret or may not sure what the wine they're ordering. So how do you avoid that? What steps would a server take, or you as a coach, to ensure that the customer gets what information from the server?
Well, this could be a tough issue, Mark, because wine's one of those things where everyone has their own taste. But a lot of people they don't know what they like either. So they're open to suggestions. So it's a good area of opportunity, I think, for a lot of servers out there, to really show their skills and to bring guests into the enjoyment of wine. A couple of the main things I focus on when I'm thinking about pairing wine with food is I either want to pair a wine with the food that have opposite flavors. I'm thinking spicy versus sweet. Those pair really nicely together. Or complementary flavors. You have big, bold flavors in your food, big, bold flavors in your wine. They seem to work nicely together. So those are the kind of the two broad angles I approach trying to look at wine pairing.
Well, that brings to mind the menu. I noticed the appetizer has a few items here. Some are in red, some are in black, but I see a calamari, and I would describe it as lightly fried and tossed with a sweet and spicy Asian chili sauce. What wine could you recommend with something that's fried and has that spicy sauce to it?
Well, Mark, that's a great example, and it was really easy to knock that one out of the ballpark. Whenever I see spicy, like I mentioned, I go straight to sweet. So we have a really nice off-dry German Riesling on our menu. That's going to be a little sweet, that's going to balance and complement that spiciness of the calamari very nicely. And every time we recommend that goes over very well.
You were saying many times in a restaurant where there's a beef dish or a bison steak or a ribeye or a prime rib, what meats, when the guest orders the meat, what wine would they necessarily want to pair with that? You have any suggestions for a meat item? I see on the menu there's number of meat items, and we're looking at perhaps the ribeye. If you have a 16-ounce ribeye, what wine would be best to pair with that from your perspective?
Well, our ribeye, that's going to be the fattiest cut. That's going to be the most flavorful. That's the boldest flavor. So again, I'm going to look towards a wine that's going to be big and bold, something that's going to stand up to that. Mm-hmm. If you go with a more delicate wine, like a delicate Pinot Noir, the ribeye is just going to overpower it. It's not going to be the best experience. So I'm thinking we go with a big Napa Cabernet, for example. If you want something maybe on the earthier side, we could go to Italy. We do a Brunello di Montalcino.
Brunello di Montalcino is a great wine.
Very big, very full-bodied. They're going to complement the fattiness and that full flavor of the ribeye very nicely.
That is great. That's a great description of how to use wine and food pairing together. Now, the menu itself, if the guest is handling the menu, a wine list, does the server have 4 or 5 items in his or her mind as the customer is trying to go through this tome of wine, pages of wine?
Absolutely.
If a server sees a customer not quite sure what they're looking at, tell us what you do to help the guest make a decision.
Well, a server should definitely have some in mind. Our wine list is almost 400 wines.
I see.
I don't have every single one of them memorized, but in almost every category, I've got 1 or 2. We call them pocket wines. Something that I am very familiar with. I could pull out of my pocket and I could quickly and accurately describe to a guest. And you have to listen to your guests and see what they're looking at. If they're looking at Pinot Noir, I'm going to go. I have a couple of suggestions for that. If they want something that's a little more lighter, a little more acidic, I might push them towards an Oregon Pinot, for example. They want something more fruit forward, that dark cherry full flavor. We might look to Sonoma Coast, Russian River Valley. Having a couple of those in mind makes it a lot easier for the guest who's looking at that big Pinot Noir section that's got 40 different wines in it. Tell me about 2. It makes it a lot easier.
Those descriptions are very enchanting. It really paints a good picture for guests, and that's great. You have a great way about expressing wines to customers.
Thank you.
So any last comments, Michael, about wine pairing from a service perspective to help the guest as we wind up this session?
Well, I'm looking forward to winding it up. I'm making myself thirsty talking about all this wine. So I'll look forward to our next section, and we could get into some wine.
Nice having you here today, Michael. Thank you for joining us today for wine pairing.
Thank you, Mark.